Why hello there friend, I'm Clive, and if you're a fan of stories that will have you sitting, staying and begging for more, you've barked up the right tree. Today I fetched you a story from the Am I the A-hole subreddit from the user DogDad1989. This one's titled, Am I the A-hole for not letting someone switch seats mid-flight? Alright, sit, stay, and listen up as we dig into this predicament and see what Redditors have to say. Let's get started. My wife, 36-year-old female, and I, 34-year-old male, were flying back from Dublin to Washington, D.C. We were assigned the middle and window seats in a row. The aisle passenger no-showed, so we ended up having the entire row to ourselves. Huge win. Before leaving the gate, I moved to the aisle seat and my wife stayed at the window. Nothing eventful happened for the first 4.5 hours of the flight. Flight attendants were amazing and even gave us extra drinks for the guy in the middle. Randomly, the passenger from the aisle seat across from me comes over with her friend, who was sitting a few rows back, and announces that her friend would now be taking the middle seat to get away from a crying baby further back. She did not ask. She told us this was happening. There was about 3 hours of flight time remaining. I asked the woman whether the flight attendants are on board with this. She said yes, but since these deals are usually brokered by the flight attendants, I called over a flight attendant. The flight attendant said the agreement was that they could take an available aisle seat, but could not disrupt anyone's seating arrangements. The woman then starts bitching about how I was assigned the middle, but then moved to the aisle before takeoff, so I shouldn't even have that aisle seat. I had been sitting there for almost 5 hours, and we had already distributed our items all over the row. The woman and her friend disappear to talk to another flight attendant for about 5 minutes. The woman across the aisle then comes back to her seat and proceeds to yell at me, saying that her friend would not be sitting there. Not because she was not allowed to, but because I was so incredibly rude, and that I was an effing a-hole. I kept my eyes on the show I was watching. The only thing I did this entire time was ask to talk to the flight attendant. I did not say anything else to this woman, though I would have liked to. Am I the a-hole for not volunteering the middle seat mid-flight? Thank you, Dog Dad, for sharing. The comments section has some strong opinions, so get your paws ready to start digging. First up is a paw who says, I'm going with the unpopular opinion here. You paid for 2 seats, not 3. You didn't ask the flight attendant because you wanted to verify the rules. You asked because you didn't want to lose your space, and were hoping the flight attendant would not permit her to move. You were assigned a middle seat. So per the flight attendant, the woman could have sat in the aisle seat once you moved into your actual assigned middle seat. She's somewhat an a-hole as well for her attitude and rude behaviour. Everyone sucks here. Okay, a paw is not holding back. They're calling out both sides here. They think the real reason for asking the flight attendant was to keep the space, not to check the rules. Fair point about the middle seat being assigned. I appreciate the balanced take, saying both parties were in the wrong for their behaviours. Next up is Vivian Light. I kind of don't understand most comments, but maybe it's cultural. In my opinion, you were definitely rude, and most importantly, I don't think that I would have ever considered mine a whole aisle if I didn't pay for every single seat. I don't understand this point. Why does everyone here seem to consider it normal? I have never seen this the aisle is mine mentality in real life. Europe. You are on your seat and that's pretty much it. If you have a middle seat who is free, it doesn't become yours, even if you obviously can enjoy it as long as it lasts, which is usually the whole flight. In the comments, it seems to be a conventional rule, but it just never seemed to me. It happened to me that people asked to use the seat near me. I said yes, and it was in an almost automatic way. I never really thought that saying no was justifiable, since I didn't pay for it. In this case, you were also occupying another seat you didn't pay for, so you should have probably come back to yours, if anything. I guess I don't understand on what basis you should say no. I guess the difference is that I don't consider anything yours unless you paid for it. You pay for a seat, not for an aisle. But even without getting technical, I don't understand why it should have bothered you that she used a spare seat that you didn't pay for. I would have, politely and involving the flight attendant, insisted if I was her to be honest, because it seems a very entitled behaviour on your part. Her reaction became disproportionate, so she was rude too. But I don't understand why you acted the way you did, to be honest. Everyone sucks here, but almost you're the a-hole. Your night nurse simply says, not the a-hole. You didn't want to sit next to a crying baby either, especially not one that's grown. Yep, night nurse, I can totally get it. Nobody wants to be stuck next to a grown-up who's acting like a pup in need of a nap. Next up is Plastic Lab, with You're the a-hole. I understand it wasn't convenient, and you had already spread yourselves all over the empty seat. However, technically, you had only paid for one seat, so if a seat is empty, and a passenger wants to move at any point during a flight, especially for a valid reason, like a crying baby, they should be able to. In this instance, it sounds like you could have even chosen which seat you'd prefer, middle or aisle, so that's even better for you. So while it made sense that you called the flight attendant, they need to know when people change seats for a number of reasons. You weren't reasonable in not immediately gathering your things so this passenger could be accommodated. Plastic Lab focuses on the technicality. The original poster only paid for one seat. They acknowledge the inconvenience, but point out that anyone can claim an empty seat if they need it, especially with a crying baby involved. Trick Pizza weighs in with, you and your wife were assigned those seats, and you got lucky with the aisle seat being free. It's totally reasonable that you'd move to the aisle for more comfort, especially on such a long flight. The way the woman just announced her friend was taking the middle seat without even asking was pretty entitled. You did the right thing by checking with the flight attendant. It's only fair to make sure everything is legit before giving up your spot, especially when you were settled in for over 4 hours. Her reaction was way over the top and uncalled for. You weren't rude, you were just standing up for your comfort and what you were entitled to. You handled it calmly by keeping to yourself and not escalating the situation further. So they back up the original poster, saying it was reasonable to want the aisle seat for comfort and to check with the flight attendant. They criticise the woman for being entitled and praise Dog Dad for staying calm. And finally, a comment that is short but definitely packs a bite from Don't Quote My Snark. You're the a-hole, you get to switch seats, but they don't. That being said, I do the same, but I'm also an a-hole. Calling out the hypocrisy, but also admitting they do the same thing, self-aware and humorous. So what's Clive's opinion? I would have to agree with Dog Dad. After all, he is my dad. The way you are approached about something can make all the difference in how you respond. And I'd like to give Dog Dad the benefit of the doubt that if they were asked nicely instead of announced to, then they would have been more happy to accommodate. And that's the end of today's video. What do you think of this situation? What would you have done? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new paw-picked post. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.